What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of Some Kind of Podcast. This is a podcast where we entertain you by discussing what entertains us. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm here joined with Cody.
Hey.
And Tim.
Heyo.
So we're going to talk your ears off about all things we love about the entertainment industry. As we mentioned before, this summer is kind of off to a good start with some awesome releases in the movie theater and in the gaming world. Space Jam: A New Legacy just released this past Thursday or Friday on the 16th?
Friday.
And then up next, big release wise, is Suicide Squad on August 6th, Free Guy on August 13th, and then over in the gaming world, some of the big hitters: Monster Hunter Stories 2 just came out this past week on Nintendo Switch. Neo: The World Ends With You. It's kind of like a cult classic for some people. It comes out on July 27th for the sequel on PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. Hades gets a re-release for PlayStation 5, Xboxes, and PlayStation 4, Xbox One on August 13th, and Ghost of Tsushima, a director's cut, releases on PlayStation 5 August 20th. So, to start things off, guys, what you been up to this past week? Let's do some EXP grind.
Not a whole lot, really, to be honest. Played some Poke MMO. Logged into Final Fantasy 14 for half a second. Other than that, it's really just been work. I've worked so much this week that went to a baseball game last night, which was hot and crowded. So
outside, not that it was hot that you went to a baseball game.
It was so hot right now. Yeah, it was like 98 degrees the whole time. So not really a whole lot. I mean, I did watch Space Jam.
In the South.
Yeah, welcome to the South. I watched Space Jam. It was as mediocre as you would expect it to be, in my opinion. Yeah, not a lot happened this week for me. What about you guys?
Since you're the only one out of us that have seen Space Jam so far, is it comparable to the original?
I think the original was way better, but then again...
Now, I want to just be devil's advocate here for a little bit. Is the original way better, or are you just looking at it through rose-colored lenses because you're a kid?
That's what I was literally just about to say.
Okay.
I think the first one's better, but I haven't watched it since I was like 12, so I don't really know.
I feel like it's better, even with the rose.
I feel like, yeah, just thinking about like overall plot, like it's better. Yeah, it was fun. There's a ton of like fun little cameos and Easter eggs throughout the movie because it's Warner Brothers and they just like go through the Warner verse or whatever. But like, it's pretty predictable, and they didn't try too hard on the story.
It'll be interesting to see. I still want to give it a watch, of course, at some point over this next week, and maybe talk about it on next week's podcast.
Yeah.
I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably go back and rewatch the original because it's been a long time for me as well, and then go see the new one.
I think it's on Hulu.
Tim, what about you? What you been up to?
Let's see. I finally watched all 6 episodes of Loki. I caught up in time for the finale, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. So I did that, and then I started playing Dragon Quest 11 on my Switch because I was just looking for something to do while I was watching. It's been the last time I talk about it for a while, Christian. I'm sorry. I, in the midst of doing that, I finished campaign 1 at Critical Role. So I did that last night.
Cool.
I won't get too much into it because I know you hate when we talk about it. But I did finish it. I'm watching I finished it for the most part. I finished all the numbered episodes. There's apparently a one shot or two that is canonical that I have to watch, but for general purposes, I finished all the numbered episodes of campaign 1.
Very cool.
So yeah, I was looking for something to do while I was kind of watching that. because even though the show is great, there are times where it's like this can be a lot. I just want to break my attention, so my Switch is handheld. So
I want you to know that campaign 1, you watched approximately 375 hours.
cool. I mean, I've been watching. I mean, okay, it's not like I sat down and did that. Well, I mean,
Well,
okay, except for like the last 2 days where I was trying to finish
yeah.
campaign. I mean, I would watch like an episode, maybe 2 a day. Like, I started campaign 1 sometime in March, I think,
Yeah.
and I just now finished it. So it took me like 4 months to watch it all. So like,
Oh yeah. No,
there's time in there to do things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying that's
You're
a feat.
saying I had time to do other things and I should have been watching Critical Role?
No,
That's
because if you recall, I rewatched the entire first campaign as well during the pandemic. I'm just applauding the effort and saying, Christian, you can do it.
Anyway,
We'll see.
I finished campaign 1 at Critical Role and I started playing Dragon Quest 11 on my Switch.
I've never really played much of Dragon Quest games.
Yeah,
That
me
was
neither.
it.
Never played a single one before. It was just it's turn-based RPGs, so I don't have to pay a whole heck of a lot of attention to it unless there's like something story-based happening. It's not like an action RPG or like something else that like or open world where I kind of have to like sort of pay attention the whole entire time. I can just kind of like I can stop in mid battle because it's not going to progress unless I select something. So it was pretty easy to play that and watch at the same time, which is why I started playing it. I mean, it's fairly good. Supposedly, it's like one of the better Dragon Quests. I never played one before, but supposedly this is like tier A, if not tier S, when it comes to like Dragon Quest games. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about it, but I've never played anything. It's Akira Toriyama that like is behind it. So if you don't know who that is, that's the person that like drew all the Dragon Ball Z stuff.
Yeah,
so like the main character kind of looks like future Trunks. And it's a little hard to get past that because like I can see elements of like Dragon Ball Z characters everywhere. And like when they do like this thing where like they power up, they get like pep. It's called pep. And like when they power up, they really kind of like it's Super Saiyan kind of like power up move. It totally is.
Yeah.
It's like there's totally like heavily like element stuff of like DBZ in it, which is kind of cool for me, but like it also is a little bit hard to be like, my character's future Trunks. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, but it's pretty good so far. I'm only like, like 8 or 9 hours into it. I'm not very far. So I think I'm level 10. So I'm not very far, but it's pretty good so far.
Cool. Awesome.
What
Yeah. So I've been trying to catch up a bit. For a while, I like had exhausted my entire of what I wanted to watch anime wise, and then I got busy with finishing up school and then doing other stuff, and then it seemed like everything's like next season of all the stuff that we usually watch like released within the past like 2 months. So I had quite a bit to catch up on. Finally caught up on My Hero Academia season 5.
You're on 5 now? Jesus.
I don't think it's done yet either. I think there's still episodes coming out. I'm pretty sure.
I think we might talk about this last episode. I can't remember. Anyway.
And then so next up on the list for me is Seven Deadly Sins, which has its latest season up on Netflix. Dr. Stone, I need to watch the latest season. Never got back to that. And then I think there was another one I can't remember. But anyway, so that's kind of has been what I've been watching. Oh, we also watched Luca, which is like a Disney Plus movie. I think it was going to come to theaters, might have been one of those, and then they just decided to release it on the platform of Disney Plus. It's like the latest animated movie from Disney Pixar. It's really cute. It's like Italian themed movie, kind of like Loch Ness Monsters type thing, where if they what?
That's the stereotypical Italian.
For those of you that can't see the gesture that Cody just made, he made a very stereotypical.
You know the one.
You know the gesture, but I think Christian thought I was giving him the bird.
Trust me, if you listen to this, you know the one.
Anyway, so like if they come out of the water, like these like Loch Ness creature monster things or whatever that are reside in this little like lake, turn into humanoid form, and then if they go back in the water, if they get wet at all, they go back to their like monster form. Anyway, it's a cute movie. If anyone wants to ever watch an animated movie, I would definitely recommend it. It was very amusing to watch. And then as far as gaming goes, I did actually beat, not that it's really any significance because it's really short, After Party. We talked about it last week.
Oh, how was it?
It was. I wish that it had taken a bit of a better approach to kind of how the story progressed and how it finished. It definitely tries to incentivize you to where like, oh, if you actually want to know the entire plot, you have to play it 3 times. And we talked about this before too, where it's not a different story. It's like you're going along the same storyline, and if you make different choices along the way, you'll get slightly different outcomes.
Yeah.
And then so like there's 3 endings to the game. And so even if you go through, and from what I realized, if you play it twice, you'll see every single difference in the game based on the 2 different choices that you can make throughout the game. And then there's just a last minute decision that you have to make that gives you one of the 3 endings. And at first I was like, well, it's only like a 6 to 7 hour game. I was like, I might I might go back and actually play it the 2 or 3 more times. Or I get, just 2 more times to finish the game in its entirety and get the platinum. And then by the time I finished the first one, I started a second playthrough and I was just like, I don't want to do this again. Essentially at the end, like you're going through this entire game trying to, escape from hell with your best friend. And the end result is you have to outdrink Satan in order to gain your freedom. And and then like the finale of the game, it spoilers, it basically all of his family members get together and do an intervention for Satan because he has a drinking problem.
Listen here, Satan. Stop being an alcoholic.
And so like you have like the 3 choices, which leads to the 3 different.
Satan. No one likes mean Satan.
Yeah, you can either go ahead and pursue to try to outdrink him, even though all his family members like, come on, stop being like insensitive. He's got a problem. Don't encourage this. And you can either succeed at outdrinking him, or you can fail. And then that's one or 2 of the endings. And then you can refuse to do the drink off with him for sake of his problems.
Which one did you pick?
I just backed out because honestly at that point when I saw that's where it was ending, I kind of just wanted the game to end. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick the option that seems to be what wraps this up the soonest. And so there's a dialogue option that's just like, man, I don't feel good about this, you have a problem, we're gonna not. And then he gets all mad, and then that's kind of where the game ends. There's like a credit scene where like it's like 3 months later and you're still in hell. And there's one side character comes up and he's like, hey, I think I have another way to get us out of hell. This one might actually succeed this time. And you're like, hey, yeah, let's do it. And then that's it. So it's kind of, I was excited for it. I mean, it's an indie game. It's only like a $20 game. I got on sale for I think like $7 or $8 on PSN. It was cool. It just wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. But anyway, verging off from there, I did play a little bit more of Dark Alliance with Cody, just like one more mission. And then I started playing Plague Tale Innocence, which is of course the free game of the month for PlayStation 5 owners on PlayStation Plus. And it's interesting. I am excited to play more. It's definitely one of those where it's not going to have much action or anything like that in the game. It's more so just, again, kind of just options. I don't think there's going to be like dialogue options, but you have to decide like where you want to go in the game. And it's more of like a narrative driven thing rather than a like, action.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
What?
Which game was this? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
It's called A Plague Tale Innocence. It takes place during like the French Revolution, I think.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. But yeah, it's cool. I saw it come out on PlayStation 4 a while back, and then I guess they re-released it for PlayStation 5, and then I guess Sony just kind of seized that opportunity to just present it as the free game of the month. But yeah. All right, so let's kind of switch gears and talk about Loki a bit. This past week was the season finale of Loki, and spoilers. Spoilers. The last week, Cody brought up that they had already unveiled that there was going to be a season 2. So I didn't really understand why there was the big unveiling in the end credits of this last episode that like, hey, Loki will return in season 2 because they already confirmed that it was going to happen.
I think it was more of like a leak situation.
Mm.
Like they didn't themselves like make a tweet like, yeah, there's season 2. I think it was more like a bunch of leaks came out of there and they were like, oh, I mean, yeah, okay, there's a season 2. And then, but they had already finished editing the episode at that point, which is probably where the leak came from.
Oh, I guess that makes sense then. So in this final episode of the first season, it's essentially just kind of like a big dialogue between the two, main Lokis of this series, and what unveils to be the villain, I guess you could say. Although I guess would you guys argue that he's more of like a anti-hero, like he's doing unsavory things, but he's doing it for what he thinks is the common good? But I guess that was kind of Thanos' logic too, though.
This version of Kang,
Kang.
Yeah, that's his name.
That's his comic book name. That's the one who remains.
He just called the He Who Remains.
Oh, yeah. So he's also cast in Quantum Mania, the new Ant-Man movie coming out, as Kang the Conqueror, which is a variant of him.
Yeah. So before you keep going, Cody, there's several different versions of this guy in the different timelines, and they're all like conquerors and like dictators or whatever. And one of I guess the most common variants is Kang.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. His so I think at least in this universe, I think his actual name is something Kang. Or Kang something. But when I didn't realize it at first, but when they zoomed in the first time to that like recycle bin void space, and it was like showing all like the New York buildings and everything and like the pyramids and all that stuff, they zoomed past what looked like Avengers Tower. But if you pause it, it actually says Kang on the side of it. Because in one of the comic books, when Tony Stark sells the tower and moves Avengers to that base, Kang buys the tower.
Oh, okay.
Because he's a scientist or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think that version of Kang was necessarily a villain. I think in the grand scheme of things, he probably is like a necessary evil if you were going to put him in any kind of evil category, just because he did maintain order to some degree, even if it was like really questionable. So
after this guy, what he refers to himself in the show as the He Who Remains, kind of did like a big spiel about like, well, there was this multiverse war. There was a bunch of variant versions of myself that were all trying to conquer and be like the dominant timeline. And so to keep that from happening or to settle things back down, I kind of made everything be at peace, made the sacred timeline, and created the TVA to kind of keep things in order. And then he proposed Loki and Sylvie with this option of, hey, you can kill me because I'm kind of old and I want to be done with all this crap. But you guys should take my place and keep things going so that things don't go into chaos. Or if you don't, and you kill me and you don't replace me, then one of my variants is going to come in and take my place. But probably going to be a less savory, more evil version like Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
So implied at the end of the episode.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess there's like the duel between Sylvie and Loki, where Loki's trying to like get her to calm down and like think about things for a minute, and she's just bound and determined. She just wants to kill the person responsible for ruining her life. Which I get to a degree, but like at the same time, like they could even like hear things going off in the background of like the sacred timeline, like dispersing, and he's like, I don't even know what's happening anymore. That sounds bad out there.
Yeah.
She's just kind of honed in on like wanting to kill this guy, which he does, and kind of erupts the universe into chaos. So what's the next Marvel film that's coming out that's going to be chronologically, I guess, after this event?
Doctor Strange? No, it's Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Spider-Man?
Yeah. Also, just a little tidbit, little side Easter egg. The windows that were behind Kang the whole time, or He Who Remains, was totally the Mickey Mouse symbol.
Was it? I didn't notice that at
Yeah,
all.
it's a big window behind him, and then there were two smaller windows up top.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, Mickey's got to
Hidden
get
Mickey.
his stamp in there. Yeah, the only part that confused me was the TVA at the end, with obviously Kang the Conqueror statue being there instead of the timekeepers or whatever.
Right.
So I don't understand if there's multiple versions of the TVA now that the branches have happened. And
I'm
then
assuming that's what was implied.
that
That's what I took away
that's
from
what
it.
I thought, yeah. As opposed to like it just
I
like
also don't know
reset
because
them.
like nothing changes. Like I mean, as you're following Loki, there's a cutaway, but like you assume it's still like the same. Like he doesn't like go to another universe; he just walks down a hallway.
Right.
But the assumption that I took away was like everything's fractured, and the multiverse of madness is coming out. I would assume that like there's just multiple versions of the TVA, and somehow this is the one that Loki's just in now.
Yeah. Uh
It's interesting though, because my takeaway was that I thought that there was only one TVA just because of the premise of how they explain how they work and everything and how they're able to jump around the various
There
timelines.
was only
Correct.
one when there was just the sacred timeline, but now that everything's all foobar, I mean, who knows?
Right. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I guess my interpretation of it was that, whenever Sylvie sent him back and killed that guy, that like time I guess is relative at this point, where especially within the TVA, where everything just kind of like instantly just changed. And like so like this new guy, this new version of Kang or whatever, just like within like what seemed seconds was just like the new ruler, and he came in and like rewrote everyone's minds and memories to forget everything
yeah.
again.
I want to say it was a separate TVA, and like because everything was splitting and cracking when she sent him through that door, it just overlapped somewhere and he got pushed into the wrong one. That's my guess. Uh,
No.
at least I hope. Anyway.
By the way, I just had this realization that like this this whole show is just like the Disney version of Rick and Morty.
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. Um, also, from my very limited knowledge of the comic books, I do want to say that like I really appreciate how they handled He Who Not Remains in the TVA, because they essentially took three different timelines or versions of the TVA or whatever from the comics and just made it into one thing. Because there's a version where there are timekeepers, and they're the ones that created everything, and they look like those
So yeah,
androids
like the
did.
timekeepers, I thought no, they're the Watchers. The Watchers are the ones that you see in a cameo with
Yeah,
Stanley.
yeah. Um, and then in another version, there's timekeepers, but then there's He Who Remains, who is just some really ancient old dude, and isn't Kang. And then there's Kang the Conqueror, and his variants, and they just like married all of them into one thing. And they were like, yeah, here's the timekeepers. They're fake, and Kang is actually He Who Remains and Kang the Conqueror at the same time.
I
Oh,
think it's maybe trying to set up Kang the Conqueror as like the next
Oh, yeah,
Thanos.
he's the next Thanos for sure. But I like how they did this as opposed to like, hey, let's take 22 movies to set up one villain.
Yeah,
Where they're just like, hey, we're
we're gonna
just,
take 22 movies to take care of all the variants of the one
yeah,
villain.
exactly. Now they're like, hey, guess what? Here's a new villain. We introduced him in a TV show.
Yep.
And have fun in the movies.
Hope you watch the TV show because if
Yeah,
you didn't, you might not understand the movies.
right. Because, I mean, uh, he's definitely going to be the villain going forward. Whether it's, I think Wanda's still supposed to be the main antagonist of Multiverse, the Doctor Strange movie, but I'm sure Kang will show up.
I mean, who knows? There's like a million different ways they could play this.
Yeah, I mean they literally have unlimited. They can do whatever they want because of the
Yeah, that's
reality
every
break.
timeline.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm hoping that all the rumors of Toby and Andrew being in Spider-Man are legit now. considering that the multiverse looks like a massive spider web now.
I hope that, but I hope every movie isn't just like some big fluster cluck
Yeah.
of like everybody's gonna be in every movie now because everything's all crazy, like because that's gonna get old real fast, I think.
Hey man, I'm gonna be real. They at any point they could be like, "Oh, RDJ wanted to make another movie, so we made Iron Man 4, but it's not part of that timeline."
I mean, I've been saying this for like ever that like they essentially they just undid everything that they set up at the end of
Yeah.
Endgame. Like everyone's back on the table now. Different versions of them. I mean,
Yeah.
how many different versions of Loki was there? I mean, maybe they can bring these characters like in. Okay, maybe ScarJo or RG or RDJ are coming back. Well, there's another version of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
There's another version of Black Widow. There's another version of Captain America. It doesn't have to just be Sam.
Right.
It could be. You have 50 Captain Americas. That's what I'm saying. Like, I hope they don't play like. I know that's what they're doing right now because that's like the way the story is going. That it's going to kind of be like that. But I hope that like after the Multiverse of Madness, they kind of chill a little bit on that because it's going to get real old, real quick. In my opinion.
Well, since Kang the Conqueror is the villain of Ant-Man Quantumania, I have a feeling, and I'm pretty sure that comes after Doctor Strange. It's not going to get solved in Doctor Strange. I think it's gonna take the next Avengers movie will be where it gets fixed. Potentially.
Maybe, because now I'm thinking about it, like there's multiple Spider-Men. There's going to be craziness going on in Doctor Strange. There's going to be craziness going on in Quantumania with the new Ant-Man movie. I mean, they could probably even play off that Shuri's just Black Panther now because she's just an alternate Shuri in an alternate timeline where she became Black Panther.
Yeah.
And Thor, Love and Thunder, there's 2 Thors now. So, like, it makes sense to think about it.
With Lady Thor, even in the comics when that happens, it's literally just Jane.
Okay, well that's the comics, and we just entered a whole new realm.
I know. I'm just saying, but like in all the iterations of it, it's literally just been Jane, and like Thor gets his ass handed to him, and then like Mjolnir falls to the ground, and the Kang or whoever doesn't pay any attention to her because she's just a human, so she grabs the hammer just because, or she like falls off of something and the hammer just goes to her and then she comes up.
We'll see, because that's the comics and this is not always following.
Oh no, for sure no, but I'm sure that's probably where they're gonna go with it.
Maybe.
I have a feeling they're gonna do what they did with Kang and just merge a bunch of stuff.
My hope and thought process on the whole thing is that I hope that if they do it correctly and well, that they'll bring in all these variants and all these different versions of all these different people. If they want to bring RDJ back, if they want to bring in various versions of Iron Man, whatever, that's fine. I just hope that whenever this plot line ends with Kang, whenever he's defeated and vanquished and he goes away, that they all go away with him. They all go back to their own timelines. The TVA maybe is reestablished or something to where like that separates all the different dimensions, and then that's just it. Maybe a couple of them keep back to like fill those voids of who's the next Black Panther is or whatever, and solves that. But
maybe I misunderstood this, and that's why the ending kind of confused me a little bit until Cody kind of brought it up. The way the like Kang or He Who Remains or whatever you want to call him, the way he was saying it, because as somebody who watches Doctor Who, when you come to like time travel and things like that, things can get really wibbly wobbly. The way that he was describing it to me, and the way I took it at least, was just like, okay, you can either take over this job for me, or you can kill me, and then I'll end up back here anyway, because that's how the natural progression of order works. Like, it's always going to be him unless somebody takes over for him. So when it was just a different guy at the end, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because the way the time should work is that if he dies, that version of him is still out there, so he should come back and take over the TVA and become He Who Remains again. So when it was somebody else, I was like, they have to be a different universe, because he even says, I'll see you soon.
I think he was talking like loosely in regards to a variant of himself. Like he's referring to the other.
I mean, I took it as like, if you kill me, I'm just gonna end up right back here anyway.
that's what I
still
took
out there.
as well. I think me and Tim saw it the same way. Like I definitely think that's the reason I think it was a different reality of the TVA, because he just the way he worded it of like, like I'm really old, and I took that in the fact of like I've grown old, died, reincarnation, and then I just come back here. But like he has all his memories, and he's just like, I'm just tired of doing this. So if
Yeah.
somebody else takes over, I grow old and die. I don't come back.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
So you're saying that as long as that seat is open, it
I mean,
needs
I
to
don't
be
know,
filled
like, because
by.
time travel is all hypothetical.
Well, I know, but I'm
The
just trying to
science
get on the
behind
same
it.
wavelength and understand where you guys are
So,
coming
like,
from. As
the
long
way
as
I took
that's
it is like, okay, if like it's a circle. So like if he is born, right, and then he takes over the TVA, if he dies, he's still born and takes over the TVA. So like it doesn't really break the cycle of like he'll be in charge of he remains
yeah,
again and again and again and again. Or it could be different where like they kill him and then the alternate timeline breaches off, which is kind of what's going on in the show. So in the sacred timeline, if they restore it, he's gonna be the guy again. Like that's how it's always supposed to happen,
yeah, like
which is
that
how he
that
knows
version,
everything.
that
Because in
version.
that case, like he says, because he shows him the pieces of paper and he's like, I know everything you're gonna say before you say it because I know it all. So in that case, like he knows that they're gonna show up. He knows he's gonna proposition them. He knows he's gonna die. He knows all the variants are gonna take over. There's gonna be like all the stuff he said, like the multi-class like war and whatnot. That could just be the future he's showing them. Like he knows that this is all going to happen, and eventually he's going to wind up right behind that desk again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only contradicting part of that though was that, after he says that last little part, I can't remember what the last dialogue was. He's like, I don't know what's gonna happen from now.
I mean,
I
until
don't.
he said that, I was actually waiting for him to like drop like a, I can't tell you how many times we've had this conversation bit.
yeah. I was also waiting for like, yep, we've done this like 8,000 times, but
And I'm trying to appeal to you once again to no avail.
like I was waiting for an insanity definition, just
Yeah.
being like, yeah,
And it didn't happen, so it could have been branching off to do other things, or
Yeah.
like I think even like Sylvie said it, like, how do you know this guy just isn't lying to us?
yeah. No,
Because they could know, like with the Doctor Strange thing, like this is the one reality where like that happened in the perfect sequence of events, where like everybody still has to die in order for all this to happen the appropriate way.
yeah,
Like it could just be like, listen, I'm going to try to appeal to you to make something different happen, but we both know how this is going to end, kind of thing.
yeah. Now I think I took it the way you did, whereas like I feel like Kang is literally just an excuse to make more movies, personally, where they can milk it, and then at the end of whatever happens, he's just reincarnated and ends up back in the same seat, and it all gets fixed. And the multiverse war that is referred to in the very beginning, is literally what's happening right now.
Yeah, which
And
is how I took it.
Yeah, and like it's literally just a big ass circle.
Like he was trying to tell him all this information, so he's like, look, we don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You could take over. I can just go and die. But if you kill me, this is everything that's going to happen, and then I'm going to end up right back here anyway.
I'm going to create the TVA again, and then we're going to be right back here, and nothing's going to be different. So,
but I don't know. I mean, they're also like dealing with like multiple universes now. Maybe one of the other universes wins compared to the one we're on right now. Who knows?
But my to what we were saying, like I feel like he literally described to them what was going to happen.
Yeah.
When he was
That's
showing,
how I took it.
when he was like, yeah, some
I've
of them
been like involved in Doctor Who, which is just like a major story beat of like sometimes you're being told the stuff that's already going to happen and you don't know it yet.
Yeah.
That like I could just be looking way too deep into this.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But that's exactly what happened when he started flipping the little like metal people onto his desk, and he was explaining like, one variant met another variant, and then they did this, and I feel like that's exactly what is happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the multiverse war is going to happen, which is what we were told in the very beginning. And then it's literally just a circle. It's just a big cycle. And all he was trying to do was make something different happen. I feel like that's all he's been doing.
Yep.
So that's
what I took by like the whole like like I can also see where you're coming from, Christian. Like the whole "see you soon" thing being like a variant of
Yeah,
like you're gonna see me soon. I'm not gonna recognize you, but you're gonna see me soon. But what I took away from that was, hey, in like 20 movies, when we finally wrap up the storyline, I'll see you again,
yeah.
and we're gonna do it all again.
Yeah, I could see it either way. We could legit just be looking way too hard into it, and Christian could be 100% on point. And it's just they're just going, yeah. Every time you kill one, a different one shows up, and we'll see what happens.
But so through your guys' logic, then, at the end of this saga, whatever is unfolding right now, it it would have to end. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it would just, if by that logic, it would continue again because we would be back right around again on the same cycle, and then it
Exactly.
would
I
continue
mean,
again.
not necessarily. That could just be this destiny for this Loki is to always start this multiverse war that then ends, and then the story continues from there. But like at some point, it will happen over again. But you don't have to see it because you already know how exactly it's going to end. Like life can just move on
Yeah.
past it. Like the multiverse war ends at some point, and he takes over, and then because like it's time travel, so like who knows how far in the future like Loki and like they're at like the end of time or whatever. So like who knows what happens like in the in between.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Again, I'm thinking way too far into this, but that just comes from like years and years of watching Doctor Who and being like,
yeah.
who knows? Like, if you're watching Doctor Who, like you don't even know where in the Doctor's timeline you're seeing him. Like it could be early in his life, it could be later in his life. Like like you don't ever really know. So it's also like Rick and Morty. Like which Loki are we really following right now? Because the real Loki and the real sacred timeline is dead. So like he shouldn't even be around.
Yeah.
So like who knows? Like I really don't know. Like it just to me, I took it as like he was just resigned to the fact of like, all right, well, I'll see you soon because we're gonna have this conversation again in like another 8 million years.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it could. The fact that the main characters in the MCU are all essentially human, obviously a couple of exceptions. There's so much more timeline considering like when they were on that planet that was destroying when they created their Nexus event or whatever. That was like hundreds of years in the future. So like I feel like you said, like anything's possible. It could just end and be like an implied like cycle, but for us it won't matter because we're just watching the sacred timeline, and it will just continue with the movies, and then it'll the TVA and everything will literally just be an afterthought, and it could probably just be like a little Easter egg in some of the movies where like things are happening and then you just see like a little door pop up somewhere.
Good.
Or it could be, like Christian was saying, because they killed him, Kang the Conqueror takes over, and then maybe they find a way to literally erase Kang from existence altogether.
Maybe.
And the multiverse lives in harmony, and there's no war. Could be literally any of it.
I'm just saying that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So you just think like it's just another version of this variant just took over?
Christian?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thought, but I mean, again, like you guys are saying, anything can happen at this point.
Yeah.
It's literally their world to do whatever the heck they want, especially since they've unveiled the multiverse. So yeah, we'll see. Is there anything you guys would hope?
Yes, and that's like really weird.
Yeah.
Narcissistic love, man. I mean, I don't know what else to call it.
I think I said it last episode, or maybe one of you guys did. Like, if there's anybody that Loki's gonna fall in love with, it would be himself.
Yeah.
Going forward into the this phase, then stemming off from the season 1 of Loki, is there anything you guys hope to see that you've heard rumored about online, other characters in the universe that you hope that pop up, or plot lines you hope to see?
I hope. I mean, I'm giving them one more chance to do Fantastic Four. Obviously, they've planned to. I'll give them one more chance to not screw it up. And then I wouldn't mind seeing some X-Men crossovers during this multiverse nonsense, because I think they've, whether it was official or not, they've established that like they're not part of the same universe. Like it's the X-Men universe and then the MCU. Sort of like the Sony universe and the MCU.
So maybe like they'll bring in X-Men as like a teaser into one of the upcoming movies, and then when this all gets resolved, they'll get put back into their timeline, but there'll be movies continually made on them, but they exist in a different
Yeah,
timeline or something
Yeah, I'd
yeah,
be okay with that. Like if there are some crossovers like that, like if like, oh look, here's the X-Men and Deadpool for some reasons now here, and hey, look, there's Tom Hardy's Venom, and isn't that cool? Like I'd be cool with that. Just don't give me like, here's like every Iron Man you've ever known from every comic book in the
yeah.
history of ever.
No,
Don't do that.
I think that things like that could happen, but I think they'll just be like minor plot points in the movies. Like if it's just like some epic
We'll see,
like
because Loki also has a season two, so like who knows what they're gonna do in the show either. This could not
right.
be. This could be contained to like just the movies now, and maybe like the Loki season two wraps it all up. Like maybe this is Loki's arc to finish. I doubt it, but
I have
like
a
I don't know what they're gonna
feeling.
do for season two.
Yeah, I don't know where season two is gonna come into play either. I could see it coming either. I could see it coming before or after the Ant-Man movie. My guess is before, and that it'll lead directly into the Ant-Man movie. But I don't know.
We'll see.
There's so much
What
they
do you
could
think,
do.
Christian?
I don't know. That was actually going to be my next follow-up question. It was going to be where, and when do you think that Loki season 2 will take place, both in our time and then the MCU timeline. And I don't.
Take place right after Loki season one. 'Cause I don't really know what else they're gonna do, but like where both shows take place, it's hard to tell because like I mean the whole show kind of takes place in between Avengers one and
It takes place for all time and always.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
I
there we
almost
go.
saw it as a, like in Infinity War when Hulk, crashes down to Earth and he's like telling the story of Thanos and telling how they need to be prepared because this guy is on his way to kick everybody's butt. I kind of feel like they're gonna recycle that same little plot with Loki. Loki's gonna be like, well, crap, now I'm at like, ground zero trying to get rid of the TVA or overthrow it. I need some help. And he's gonna go and actually like tell everyone like what's actually going on.
He's
I
gonna
mean, but
assemble the Avengers.
which one is he
Essentially.
telling though? Like,
Well,
'cause he's not.
and again, a very limited knowledge to the comic books, but there is a Kang the Conqueror arc where Loki is an Avenger, becomes an Avenger, um, and it's the same arc where Jane like becomes Lady Thor, and she takes the hammer from Thor. So, I I could totally see them throwing this version of Loki in, being the changed Loki, and somehow convincing the Avengers that he's worthy and becomes an Avenger.
I will say that like, you know, I thought I was gonna be off the Marvel train after like Endgame, so I was like, all right, I don't know what else they can really do to like make this interesting. And they definitely have made it interesting enough to where like I'll keep watching, which is I guess the whole point
Yeah.
of what they're trying to do is to keep you watching and tuning into the next thing that they're going to put out. So I'm intrigued enough to keep going. I thought I was really done after Endgame. I was like, I've followed this for 22 seasons. The big bad has just been beaten, or 22. Sorry, 22 movies. The big bad has just been beaten. I'm off the Marvel train for a while, and then they did all this, and I was like, all right, I'll see what happens. But
Yeah,
if they do too much of like the multi, like look at all these different versions of the heroes, I might sour on that a little too quickly. I just think that like it's okay every once in a while, just don't beat that dead horse because then I'm gonna get old of it real quick.
yeah, I could honestly see them going forward. I mean, at one point I looked up, like, most notorious powerful villains in the like Marvel comics, and like Thanos wasn't even like high up on the list as far as like
I'm
big
like
bad
it's
people.
like the big bad, like he swallows planets, right?
Yeah. So he's up there for sure. And I definitely feel like they're gonna recycle the plot in the sense of you're gonna have all these mini side stories. There's gonna be this one big bad guy in the background that's eventually gonna create a problem that's too big to handle for any one of these groups of people. So then they're all gonna come together to defeat it, and then they're all gonna disperse and do their own thing, and they're gonna keep coming back together. as far as that goes, I think that's going to keep happening. But I hope, like you were saying, rather than there being like 4 Avengers movies until like the final Avengers movie actually finishes that plot line, I hope that everyone does their own thing only until the last minute to come all together to like conclude the saga and like beat the hero.
Yeah.
Or sorry, beat the villain.
I do think that with the new Spider-Man movie coming out, that they're going to normalize multiple Avengers in each movie.
Oh, so you think like rather than having like Avengers or like I guess you right, so you're saying that like Captain America Civil War is going to become the norm.
For the well, sort of. So, but I just mean like Doctor Strange is supposed to be in Spider-Man throughout. He's a big character in the new Spider-Man movie. So I think it's going to be more like that, where it's not necessarily Civil War, but it's like I don't think a Spider-Man movie is ever just going to be a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, get used to like, especially in like the MCU timeline of like, okay, it's Thor, but like Spider-Man could be in it.
Yeah, like I think it's gonna be like it's Thor, but it's also Guardians. And
so I guess like Thor Ragnarok, where like it's Thor, but Hulk's also in there.
Yeah. Like to be more like that. We're like you're not gonna surprise see all the Avengers, but don't be surprised if you see like another 1 or 2 of them hanging around.
Yeah, like
during the movie, just to kind of help out.
I think Guardians are gonna be a big part of Thor: Love and Thunder. I think.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because that's where last place you saw Thor was with them.
The Asgardians of the Galaxy. No, I really think that that's going to be the norm now. Like, there's going to be multiple in each movie, and
I mean, think about it. I mean, Wanda is supposed to be in Multiverse of Madness, so
yeah, and you know that's Doctor Strange, so it's gonna be Doctor Strange and Wanda, you know, and maybe even Loki. And Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, you're gonna probably have Guardians. You're gonna have Jane as Lady Thor, Thor using, whatever the axe was called. Stormbreaker.
You know, eventually, you know, Captain America Sam is going to be in one of these. So
yeah, it'll be Sam and the Winter Soldier. And it'll probably be another Avenger with him. I could see Spider-Man.
Yeah, I can see Spider-Man and Captain America hanging out
for sure. Considering they had like the funniest like interactions during that Civil War fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see all that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but like I totally agree with you, Cody. Like we should probably get used to now. There's never just gonna be like it's just Spider-Man anymore, or it's just Captain America, or it's just Doctor Strange. Like it's gonna be Doctor Strange, and like it might be titled these people's names. They're probably gonna be like the main focus of the movie, but like you know, like Doctor Strange, Wanda's in it, so like it's. Be prepared to see multiple Avengers in other movies now that aren't just their own titles.
The only time I think we'll ever get another Marvel movie that doesn't have another Avenger in it, unless it's like a post-credit thing, is if it's like an origin. Like if they decide to do Fantastic Four as an origin movie, but I think they're gonna do a Disney Plus show. Like unless it's an establishing movie for a new character or something like that. I don't think it's ever going to just be that character. Like Captain Marvel 2, guarantee there's going to be like Vision or somebody else.
Something.
Because Vision just vanished, right? He just left.
Yeah,
so
he's
like
around somewhere.
I guarantee he'll be a main focus in one of the upcoming movies. I think that's the new norm, personally. Would you agree, or you think?
I agree. I don't know about Christian, but I was on the same page. I don't know. What do you think, Christian?
No, I could see it. I think that's pretty fair to say. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see though how things kind of unfold. Do you guys have anything else to add to the Loki situation as we know it?
Oh man, I could probably ramble for hours about time travel and the hooky pokey and weirdness, but no.
You know, I kind of hit all the points I wanted to hit. I mean, those are the major plot points. You know, other than, you know, what's Renslayer doing? And
yeah, where'd she go? She just stepped out.
Yeah. Like, the whole purpose of, I guess the whole purpose of their going back to their school for like that half a second.
Yeah. maybe by the time this is all done, she'll be the one that's in control of the TVA.
Who's Mobius's variant? Like, where does he play into this? Because they never talk about what he was doing.
Yeah.
You see, like the one Hunter, where her variant came from. You see where Renslayer's variant came from, but they never talk about Mobius, where he came from.
It depends how well they stick to the comics, and I think overall they've done pretty well of sticking to a comic, not like a comic run, but they've typically stayed to some degree of a comic. But I know, again, very limited, but Renslayer is Kang's love interest in the comics.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to go that way. But in most of the comic arcs that I looked into while watching the show, she is like Kang's lover throughout most of it.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Cool. All right. Well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit here. So I'm going to start something new here. What we're going to do is we're going to start teasing you all with what we're going to example of our post-show content that we're going to do here in the future. And so for now, just so you guys can get example and a sampling of it, we'll go ahead and still give it to you for free right here on the podcast, lumped on the end. Today's topic is going to be why you should watch Critical Role, presented by Cody and Tim. And for those of you who don't actually want to continue watching, I'm going to go and do the outro. But if you want to listen to this, you can
don't
stay.
Do the outro. Don't do the outro.
Why? That's mean.
That's just mean.
All right, we're going to do why you should play Ratchet and Clank. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you don't want to listen to this nonsense, here's the outro.
This is your 15 minutes of uninterrupted time. I'm going to walk away now.
Okay, all right. I won't do the outro, but for a little bit, we're gonna start sampling you with a little bit of what we're gonna start doing as post podcast content. So in the future, down the line, this is gonna be something that you have to subscribe to in order to get access to, something that you may have to pay to way down the line. But for now, this is just gonna be a sampling of what we're gonna be doing in the future. So guys, my question to you is, why should I care about Critical Role?
I don't know if I want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Just rude.
All right. Well, that was some kind of podcast. Tune in next week.
Cody, you want to start? You know more about it than I do.
I don't know, man. I have mixed feelings now. Christian really hurt me. You should care because we care. And...
So every freaking week, you're like, you should watch Critical Role.
But everybody listening should care because
we care. That's how this
I
works.
Know why? So okay, let's start at the beginning. So what's the premise of the show?
It's D&D.
Yeah, you ever
how was it started?
You know how like you're playing a video game, you're like, oh man, I wish they had done like this. Like, it's a good game, but like I wish that like they could like do more, you know what I mean? Like I want there to be like you can pretty much do like whatever you want kind of thing. Like, you know how you always want that game where, like, wish I could do like whatever I wanted. And that's what D&D is.
Yeah. You
can legitimately do whatever you want.
Do you like really compelling stories, Christian?
Do you like okay, let me put it to you this way. I'm about to admit something here. I don't like to admit this, but I'm about to admit this. I think in my whole life, I maybe have gotten like weepy like in like 3 movies.
Yeah, it's the same. It's pretty fair.
Like Marley and Me, definitely.
I not to tangent. It's just because I have a messed up brain.
Laughing in the Marley and Me.
I laughed when that dog died. And I'm such a dog lover too. Like, if you knew me in person, like anytime anyone talks crap about any kind of animal, or like I think an animal's being abused, I get so mad.
You laughed at the dog.
I saw it with Kenny, and we were in the theater, and like we both laughed because it was such a serious
Who,
moment.
who, which one of you presented like, hey man, let's go on a bro date to see Marley and me?
It was it. We had just gotten off work, and we had to go do something, but like we needed a couple hours to kill, and there was nothing else playing, so we're like, I guess we'll go watch Marley and Me.
I guarantee you that if you were at a movie theater, there was something else playing.
It had we
that
had
you made the
either
choice to go see that movie.
we had either seen it or it was in the middle of it, and we weren't about to do that. So we went and sat in Marley and Me, and like I don't know if it was just like because of the day we'd had or what, but like that moment happens and like everyone and their mother starts bawling, and for some reason that got us both, and we started laughing, but we were just like sort of chuckling to ourselves. But then he snorted, and like it went off the rails, and we both left. We just got up and walked out.
All right. Well, besides,
I didn't mean to go on too much a tangent. I just had to be
really
real.
just, reasons that people should go to therapy. Um,
You're not wrong.
okay, so like, where was I? Oh yeah, like Marley and Me. Like when Harry Potter ended, I got a little emotional because that was like my whole childhood kind of thing.
Oh, I cried when Snape died.
Yeah, yeah, but like, I can't. There's been like a handful of times. I can count on one hand the number of times that like I've watched something that's been like wow, and like has moved me to like tears. Um, but when I finished the campaign, like it's just like okay, so like the way they just portray their characters so well, and the way they themselves on screen have so much like emotional attachment to their characters. Like this is like an unparalleled kind of thing. Like imagine like because like usually when you watch something like you're just watching like the character arc and you're not really seeing like the actor behind the character. Like if like when Tony Stark died, like yeah, it was sad. But, like you didn't see RDJ get all weepy and emotional because his character was dying. Like he probably did that, but you didn't see that because off screen. But since like they're playing themselves and like not playing themselves, since they are there and they're also playing the characters at the same time, like there's just like real rawness that comes to like watching them play these characters that like when they started doing like the end like epilogue stuff, like I really started crying like pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So like there's like this emotionalness to it, and like the story is so good. Like Matt Mercer, like I didn't know him before, I really only knew him because like oh, he did the voice of that cowboy in that video game. That's pretty cool. He says high noon really really awesome, like that sounds cool. I know him besides that, and another fact that he's been like everything in my whole entire childhood.
Yeah, he's voiced everything.
He's equal parts insane and genius, and like just has concocted this world that like is just so elaborate and intricate that like you can't even like even the people on the show are like I don't know how he does this.
Yeah,
even he is like I don't know how I do this. He's just really good, and like it's weird to watch at first. I'll give it to you. Like when you're trying to watch the show, like when you start on campaign 1, first of all, for the first like 20 episodes, they're learning about how to do the streaming thing. This is new to them. Yeah. Like none of them have done this before. Like it was in 2015. Like the internet had been around and streaming had been a thing. Like because they're doing on Twitch, so like it's been around for a while, but like it's still in like very much the early years of all that kind of stuff. So like they're figuring it out as they go. So by the time they get to like the end of the campaign, they figured pretty much it all out at this point. But like at the beginning, there's sound issues and like it takes a minute. Also, like their campaign started off screen through Pathfinder, which is another like tabletop RPG that they were playing, and they converted to D&D for the stream because it was just a little bit easier for people to follow. People knew what D&D was. Even though people don't like know a lot about D&D, like it's established, like people know what Dungeons and Dragons, are. So like it was just easier for them to transition for the stream to play D&D. So they started off stream, and they've been playing these characters for years before they got to streaming. So like, not only is it a little bit odd because like there's obviously some audio, video quality things that get worked out over time, and things get progressed better, and like maps and camera angles and whatnot get added, and things evolved and whatnot.
Technology
Yeah,
improves.
but it's also weird because like you're starting in the middle of their campaign, so it takes a minute for you to kind of get the characters, like, and who they are and what each other of them mean to each other. But it doesn't take long, and I don't know. You think it'd be weird to just sit there and watch like a guy talk, and then like have six people sit around a table, just role playing characters that, and holding swords and items that aren't like you can't see them, like they're just there. I don't know. I have a very active imagination, and like it's theater of the mind, and you can be whatever you want it to be or whatever you want it to look like.
Yeah.
So, question on, so like I know who Matt Mercer is, of course, famous voice actor from over the years. Who is the rest of the team made up of?
Okay. So Cody might know a little bit more than me, but I know a couple of them. You watch Naruto, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So you know who Gara is then.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who voices Gara, his name is Liam O'Brien. He is one of the people that's playing.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Travis Willingham, who did Thor for pretty much anything.
Yeah, he's been the voice for Thor for a long time, including the new Avengers game.
Yeah. Ashley Johnson, who is Ellie.
Ellie.
Last of Us.
The Last of Us. As well as a few others.
Laura Bailey, who was Kid Trunks in Dragon Ball Z, which you wouldn't know because you haven't watched it yet.
Abby in Last of Us 2. She's also Black Widow in the Avengers.
Mm-hmm. Sam Riegel did the voice of Alphino, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah, and early, like I think through Heaven's Ward, he was Alphino.
Mm-hmm.
And
but I think he does more like on the musical side of things. He doesn't really voice act a lot.
He did Ace Attorney too.
He's Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. And then I don't know anything that Marisha does.
Marisha, I think, does mainly background voices at the moment. I know she's done some acting, but she's usually just background characters, multiplayer voices, and stuff like that.
I think it's all 7 of them.
Taliesin.
I don't know anything what Taliesin does.
Taliesin has voiced the Flash. He also voiced Thancred for the same time period that Sam was Alphino. He's done other things. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
So yeah, but like the biggest ones that you'd probably know would probably be like
Liam, yeah, he's done a few Naruto characters too.
But yeah, so it's Liam O'Brien, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Ashley Johnson,
Sam Riegel, Taliesin Jaffe,
and Marisha Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an 8th guy, but he leaves about 30 episodes in.
Yeah, Orion something.
Orion Akaba.
Yeah,
I don't know what
there was some kind of weird issue behind the scenes.
But honestly, like from the first episode, I was like, this guy doesn't really fit in with the rest of the group dynamic. Yeah. So when he leaves, I was kind of like, thank God. In fact, when I texted Cody after I watched the first episode, I texted Cody, you have to tell me who leaves, because if it's not this dude, I'm stopping watching. And he was like, it's that dude.
Yeah. So okay, well that's cool then. So everyone on there is a voice actor of some sort, or has done work with voice acting in the past.
Their opening is like
some other guests that they add aren't necessarily voice actors. Yeah. Most of them are, but like Joe Manganiello is in it. He's not a voice actor. He's just an actor.
He's done some voice acting, but he's not known for voice acting.
Yeah. So like once they start bringing in guests, it could be a mix of voice actors or just actors.
Yeah, like Chris Hardwick was on the show.
John Heater's on it.
John Heater. Joe Manganiello.
And there are also other people that are just known for voice acting, because I think Liam is he's moved on from voice acting. He still does it, but he actually more directs voice actors now.
Yeah.
Which is how they all came together, was because they all knew Liam.
Yeah.
So give me a synopsis of season 1. Like, what even happens? Like, what is like the where does it take place? Like,
remember when I said it was like 380 hours long?
Okay, yeah, but I mean, like,
Okay, so if you want, all right, here you go. Here, it's the Adventures of Vox Machina.
Yeah, that is
what?
as Vox Machina is their
Vox
group.
Machina is the group. So all 7 of them comprised are Vox Machina. That's the name of their group.
Okay.
And it is the Adventures of Vox Machina because there's legitimately like 7 story arcs that happen throughout the whole entire
Yeah.
game.
Okay,
Now
so I get
they all like bleed in, and they're all intermittent in some ways, and they all serve a greater purpose for the end final arc of the campaign. But
Yeah.
like,
right.
there's really no like this is what happens because it's like so campaign 1 like people like to think of the campaign as like seasons, but like it's more like campaign 1 is like 5 seasons of a show, and then campaign 2 is the spin-off of campaign 1, sort of. Like the world that they're in is still the same world, but like it progresses to its own thing.
So, okay, so tell me about the world then. Like, what's the setting? Is this
Uh,
like medieval? Is this futuristic?
Medieval.
it's fantasy. What do they call it?
High fantasy.
High fantasy. So there
So Final
are
Fantasy.
with less technology.
With less technology. There's no trains or
Yeah.
robot. Well,
There's
they're on the
automatons.
cusp. It's almost like they're on the cusp of like a technological revolution.
It's sort of like sci-fi fantasy meets steampunk medieval. Like one of the characters wields a gun.
But he's the only one that has
He's
it.
the only one that has a gun. And then later on, there is a character they meet that has a automaton companion.
But he's the only one that has one.
Exactly.
So I'm saying like it's like they're on the cusp of like technological revolution.
Yeah.
So I guess through that lens then too, what are their characters like? Like what are their builds? Like what are their classes? Like what is each character made
Okay,
up of?
well Liam plays a rogue, which is like an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably what you would play if we played
yeah.
D&D.
Laura plays a ranger, so like a hunter, bow and arrow kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley plays a cleric, which is a healer.
It's like more like a paladin if you want to get like real technical.
Yeah, but not
Even,
a paladin.
But not a paladin. Paladin's a class, but like in terms of like what Christian would know, like Final Fantasy wise, like it's like a sword and shield user that heals. It's like very religious.
Sam plays a bard, so you can probably guess what that is. A lot of inspiration and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dalison's the gunslinger, so he technically his class is a fighter class in D&D, which is your sort of like just like I have a sword and I can use any kind of weapon kind of class.
Yeah.
But it's been homebrewed and adapted to fit Percy's gunslinger class.
Because they played Pathfinder, which has
gunslinger. Marisha is a druid, so a lot of nature based. She can turn to animals. And then there's Grog, who is the best part of the show.
Yeah. no. He's the second. I don't know. It's a tie between
Grog and Scanlan.
But
Travis, who plays Grog, the barbarian, is just. I mean, he's a barbarian, so he's a tank.
Yeah. But he plays his character really dumb. Like he intentionally.
Yeah, he rolled really low intelligence
really
for his character. Like he rolled like really low for his intelligence, and he just has played into it the whole entire time.
Yeah. So
he's just a dumbass.
Yeah, he's a brute dumbass, and it's so funny. They all play their characters really well, like to the point where one of them, Keyleth, Marisha Ray's character, is so annoying that I legit hate her character.
Yeah, like she has really low charisma, so she plays into that. So she's very socially awkward and is supposed to be annoying, and she's very socially awkward and is very annoying.
Yeah. She starts a lot of fights, but that's how she created the character, and so she plays it really well.
So these same characters from season 1, are they all the same characters in season 2?
No.
They rolled different characters.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be its own thing. Now, it only takes place off recording, off mic, whatever. Cody had said that, like it takes place only 20 or 30 years after the events of campaign 1. So like whoever is alive at the end of campaign 1, if they have the lifespan to live 20 or 30 years, they're still around in campaign 2.
Yeah.
They're just not being played by those people anymore.
Like there are NPCs that show up from campaign 1 and campaign 2. But it also campaign 2 takes place on the other half of the world.
Oh yeah, so the world is divided into 4 continents, I think.
Yeah. Um, and campaign 1 is Taldore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Campaign 2 is Wild Mount.
yeah. And so,
And they visit all the other continents. At least in campaign 1, they visit all the other
yeah,
continents.
they sort of visit here and there, but like Taldore is where the main campaign 1 takes place, and Wildmount is where the main campaign 2 takes place. So they're not really visiting places that the players know, so they can't like meta game, which is like,
Hey, I know like that this is over here, even though my character doesn't know it.
yeah, where they're like, oh, I know that from campaign 1 we left a really powerful artifact in this tomb that nobody else could possibly know, so I'm just gonna happen to walk upon it and grab this magical artifact.
That's the difficulty with D&D is that like you have to differentiate between what you know and what your character knows, because like as Matt is saying things, he does whisper things to people that he doesn't want anybody to know, that's super secret. But like your character could not be in that room and another character dies, and like so obviously you would want to rush in and help them, but your character doesn't know that they're dead, so they just have to stand there and wait until somebody tells them something.
Yeah. Or
So
like, let's say that Christian, for what, let's say you were a DM and you had a whole campaign, so you know what all these monsters are, and then Tim starts DMing and he's describing a big creepy monster. You know, Christian knows exactly what that monster is and know exactly how to kill it, but your character doesn't, so you can't do any of those things. That's what metagaming.
until you find out.
Yeah.
Like for instance, like I know a couple times like there has been an enemy that has been like so Sam Riegel, who plays Scanlan, he has a lot of like he has like this lightning bolt thing, and like there was a monster that like he through storyline purposes had fought as another character, and knew that it had a lightning resistance, but Scanlan did not. So he went to use like a lightning bolt attack, and they're like, "Why are you doing that?" And he was just like, "Because Scanlan doesn't know that he has lightning resistance, so he's going to do this."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. You have to really pull yourself away. So like the reason why it's so different from campaign 1 and 2 is so you're not like, okay, well we left this holy Avenger magical AF item in this cave over here, and I know it's still there because we were the only ones that knew about it. So we're just going to happen to venture off into that area, but like now they're on a different side of the world. So
yeah.
Okay, so is the season 2 as far as it's gotten so far?
Yeah.
So the campaign 2 is just now ended. I have not watched it. Cody has.
Yeah.
I have not watched it.
It just ended maybe a month
Like
ago.
a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And campaign 3 is supposed to start sometime the end of this year or early next year, right?
Yeah, they usually start it. My guess is either October, November. That's my prediction. I would like to see it sooner, but it's up to them. I mean,
they're gonna do. I mean, there's still like a month left of Exandria Limited. It's only like half over.
So I think they're past half now.
There's 8 episodes. 4 just came out.
Okay, yeah. So they're exactly half.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
like
right,
there's still another month of that. So you're talking like end of August, September before they would even contemplate. But I feel like they're gonna do some one shots in between, because that's what they did in between campaign 1 and 2.
Yeah.
There's like 8 or 9 one shots that they did to kind of like, because like with one of these things where it's like campaign 2, I mean there was COVID, so there was a little bit of a break in between, but campaign 2 still took like 3 years to do. Like it's a long investment, and they play every week. So I mean I don't blame them if they're like, we need a couple months off to kind of recuperate and think of new characters and stories that we want to do for the next campaign. So I think campaign 1 ended in October of 2017, and they didn't start campaign 2 until that January or February of 2018.
That's why I could see it being in September, just because like
they also do other things too.
Yeah.
So, and they're trying to come up with their new animated show, like the Adventures of Vox Machina, the stuff that happened before.
I think they've actually finished 2 seasons. It's not obviously it's not released.
Yeah, they're still working on that too. So like the stuff that happened before campaign, they're going to start releasing in animated form
on Prime.
and on Prime. So
Oh wow, that's
there,
awesome.
Yeah.
there you go. That's why you should watch Critical Role. I mean, do you like compelling stories and fantasy stuff?
Of course.
And anthropomorphic people.
Not at all hate that.
Do you like hilarity and good times? The only thing that is the downside of Critical Role is that you have to use your imagination because you're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
So as Matt's describing stuff, like you have to be like, okay, what would this look like?
It gets better as it goes. Like when they're in battle, especially like the first half, like it's essentially just like a piece of paper with like
Drawings
on it, and then they have their little minis and they put them on. And then slowly as they go, he starts upgrading where it'll be like,
well,
oh
they get
yeah,
sponsored and they get like sent stuff.
yeah. They eventually start like getting revenue, and they get sponsored by Hero Forge and Dwarven Forge, and then they start building. Matt gets nuts and starts
Yeah.
building like full on like
Very intricate and interactive sets.
like movie set quality miniature sets for their minis, and then you're like, oh, I don't have to imagine this at all. I can just see it. Okay, cool. So
if it's not a battle, you kind of have to imagine it.
yeah.
And also, I don't know if they do any better in campaign 2, but like it was like episode 80 or 90 before I ever saw a map of what Tal'Dorei looked like.
Oh yeah, no. In campaign 2, they have a map for literally everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside. Other than that, like, oh, well, the other downside is that like it takes them forever to do anything.
Yeah. They argue a lot.
They argue a lot, which there are a couple episodes where I'm like, wow, okay, I watched this whole thing and you guys just argued for 2.5 hours and then didn't do anything you said you're going to do. Which that can be a little frustrating. If I'm being devil's advocate, that's a little frustrating.
Sure.
And like some battles can take long because it take forever, and like then you realize that like a round of battle is only 6 seconds in real time, like in game time. So like
Each
for instance,
each
like,
player turn is a second.
Yeah. So I think like one of like the mid series big fights was like it was like 4.5 hours long, but it was actually only 90 seconds
Yeah.
in game time. So that can be a little bit hard to like accept that, like, but you have to realize like everything is happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like it's a player's turn, all the other stuff that they're saying in that round is happening at the same time.
I mean, think about it like Pokemon. Like, if you watch the anime, a normal Pokemon battle takes like a second, right? But you go to, like, even when he's in like the Elite Four, like they breeze through that. But then you play the games, and some of those battles can take you like 20 minutes of just like, ah, crap, now I got to like throw one out to sacrifice so I can revive another one. And you got to do all this stuff. But like in reality, this battle is only taking like a couple minutes.
It's like that.
That's pretty cool.
You should watch it. It's pretty good. I mean, I will say, like, if you're gonna watch from episode 1, it's a little hard to get into at first, but like as somebody that like needs to see everything from the jump to like fully grasp, because Cody's like, you can probably start at like episode 25 or something like that, which is like, honestly, like if you look online, that's where a lot of people tell you to start at. It's just like, just start at episode 25, because by that point that one of those dudes is either leaving or about to leave.
Yeah, that's where he leaves, and that's where they figured out the audio.
Yeah, but like I watched everything, and like the audio, it's a little shoddy at times, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's
So what I'm hearing is I should start at season 2, episode 1.
You can start a second season.
You
if
can,
you want to.
but
they're not related.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are and they aren't. There are things from campaign 1 and characters from campaign 1 that do bleed into campaign 2.
You might not.
You just won't understand any of the references.
You might not get like the Easter eggs.
Yeah.
That like will get dropped on. Like if a big, I don't know. I haven't watched campaign 2, but like if an NPC from campaign 1 showed up in campaign 2, you won't be like, you'll just be like, oh, cool, that's that dude. That's the only thing you're really gonna miss, because it's its own standing story.
Yeah, there's a couple of characters that show up that were like mind-blowingly like, oh, no, whoa. You won't get that. You'll just be like, okay.
But like, I know, like, because I read like there's a YouTube video like how to watch Critical Role, and the girl even says like it might be better if you have nothing about it to start campaign 2 and then rewatch campaign 1 once you're done.
It's like a backstory.
Yeah.
So because campaign 2, the characters start from like level 1,
Yeah.
so like you're seeing them from the beginning, which I think in campaign 1 they're like level 8 or something when they start.
Yeah.
So they've already have like a bunch of abilities and whatnot. Whereas like with campaign 2, like you're seeing them from the jump all the way through to the end.
Yeah. The only, I guess you could say downside to doing that is that there would be spoilers for campaign 1 just from the players.
Yeah.
They do refer to things. They'd be like, oh, didn't I do that as Keyleth? Like, didn't we go to this place and do this? And like, oh man, remember when we did this thing and took down this thing? Like, things like that. But like, if that doesn't bother you, then yeah, just start with campaign 2.
To say like if you start campaign 2, you're gonna know the characters. They've already worked out all the audio visual kinks from campaign 1. Yeah. They're really not intricately connected. So yeah, start campaign 2. I'm out to start campaign 2. We'll be on the same page.
It might be good for the podcast. We can start having some
I was gonna say, I was like, if I start on season 2 and like it, then we'll all be on the same page and be able to talk.
Cody will be ahead of us because he's watched it all.
But... I'll start rewatching it with you guys.
Are we gonna do this? Because I'm totally down to do this.
I'll start at episode 1. I mean, if
I'm gonna watch campaign 2, whether you guys choose to rewatch or watch it yourselves, I'm gonna do it. So if you want to do like an episode or 2 a week, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna slow down anyway because I breezed through campaign 1.
My homework is that I will watch at least episode 1 of season 2 by next podcast.
Okay. All right. I'm holding you to that. Which means I have to now watch episode 1 and 2. I was gonna give myself a week, but if you're gonna watch it, I'll watch it.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's actually going to wrap up this week's episode of Some Kind of Podcast. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, SKO Entertainers, or visit our website at www.skoentertainment.net for more information. And finally, don't forget to join us next week because even on the best of days, we all need some kind of entertainment.
Bye.
See you guys.